The only good map in Conquest is Firestorm, and that's not even a new map. That's a map from Battlefield 3, which goes to show you they hemorrhaged too much talent that they don't know how to make maps right now. They need to get away from the 3-lane approach of Call of Duty, because this is Battlefield. You flank, you outmaneuver. That's how you do it. You can't outmaneuver and flank when you know the routes. That's the thing. You will always create a message within a game. There's no way around it. You are delivering morals. You are delivering what is right and wrong in a game. Every game has a message. You can't get around it. And so Ubisoft, you focus on the wrong message and you've lost the plot. AI is great for specific tasks. AI is not great for other specific tasks. Use the tool wisely. I know it is such a temptation to use it for everything, but don't do it. It will ruin you. That's good. Hey, welcome back to Digital Coffee Gaming Brew. Today I'm diving into all the spicy drama from LGBTQ plus representation differences in Dragon Age, Veilguard, and Baldur's Gate 3 to Ubisoft's latest Assassin's Creed controversies, Battlefield 6 updates, and why AI might be ruining gaming. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, let's catch up on what's been brewing and gaming this week. All right, I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. But first off, there was an article basically from the perspective of former EA designer Alex Hutchinson regarding the LGBTQ plus representation in 2 video games, Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon Age the Veilguard. Hutchinson states that both games are very LGBTQ friendly. He claims that Baldur's Gate 3 handled the representation better than Dragon Age the Veilguard. He speculates that the recent acquisition of BioWare by a group that includes the Saudi Arabia's public investment fund could negatively impact BioWare's history of including queer options in the games. He mentions that the new owners of EA may adopt a sales-driven approach to LGBTQ content, allowing it only to be possible because it's profitable. Well, first of all, duh. Yeah, businesses only allow it when it's actually profitable. If it's not profitable, they don't allow it because it doesn't move the needle. You are there to make money. You're not there to be an activist. The problem with activists is that they don't make money. They cause controversy and they ruin businesses. So yes, second of all, Baldur's Gate 3 basically allowed you to do whatever you wanted, even having sex with a bear, which very weird, but hey, more power to you that you could do that. So they allowed for a lot of nuance, and they didn't say you have to choose this specific thing. In Dragon Age the Veilguard or Failguard, they basically made you agree with pronouns and all that stuff. There was no disagreement. You could not disagree. You had to be like, yes, it's wonderful. Yes, it's great. I'm glad you have a mental illness that you can actually, I don't know, fix yourself. So that was the problem. The problem was the bad writing and the political agenda behind it. Nobody likes political agendas in the game. Nobody. Well, except for those that actually do it. Second of all, BioWare was not LGBTQ plus friendly until later on. You didn't start seeing it until Mass Effect 2 anyways. Seriously, can we stop with it? We've always been friends. No, you haven't. I played both Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2. It didn't have that much in it. It's a recent phenomenon. And I like how they're like, we've always been this way. It's no. Because society eventually moved that way. You weren't that way in the beginning. And then you went a little too far. Now, do I care if they're whatever representation friendly? No, I don't really care, but just don't hit me over the head with it. Or I just won't buy your games, which I did not buy Dragon Age Veilguard or Failguard. I did play it for free on PlayStation, and I probably got to that point until the Pola Brava thing happened, and I was like, I really don't want to play this game anymore. It really wasn't that great. Anyways, the writing was laughable. The story was abysmal, and it just kind of felt like a lesser version of Mass Effect, not Dragon Age. Because Dragon Age is more akin to, funnily enough, Baldur's Gate, because BioWare actually made Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Little gaming history for you. They are actually the developers that make Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and then they moved on to their own stuff. Well, then they moved on to Neverwinter Nights, and then they went to, I think it was that Jade Empire, and then they went to Star Wars, and then they eventually came back to Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and then Anthem. So that's where we're at. So, yes, Mr. Hutchinson, it did negatively impact. Yes, businesses should be aware if your political agenda does not make them money, because if it doesn't make them money, there's no point to do it. And that's how businesses run. You run a successful business by making a profit. If it doesn't make you a profit, you don't do it anymore. This isn't the government. You don't get to do programs that are money sucks and you just throw more money at it, because more money throwing at it will make it eventually successful. It won't at all. So yes, as every company should be, if you're writing something that is not very successful and not making you money, you don't do said thing. It's a very simple thing. All right, moving on to the new update of Assassin's Creed Mirage. Yes, you know, the one before Assassin's Creed Shadows that was supposed to be a DLC of Valhalla, but then wasn't, and became its own game, and it was a really smaller version of it, and it was better than Shadows anyways, but now they're doing a free expansion on November 18th. And this update will be available on all formats. It will actually have an upgraded parkour system as well. And it will allow players to replay all black box missions and contracts after they have completed them once. Each replayable mission will have unique challenges, such as avoiding the use of eagle vision and targeting only the main enemy. Similar to like the previous ones where you kind of had those types of missions. I think, what was it? Assassin's Creed Syndicate had like similar ones for that one, where you had a mission and you had specific things to get more experience from. I remember playing some of that. Was like, well, you could only kidnap the one suspect and you couldn't kill anybody else, type of a thing. So it's similar to that. Completing these missions reward players with exclusive in-game content. Now, like I said, if you've already have Assassin's Creed Mirage, you might as well just play it because it's a free update anyways. And I'm glad that they actually updated the parkour system. So maybe it'll be actually a little bit better. But I'm actually quite surprised that Ubisoft is actually doing anything with this game, because it didn't actually do that well. But it's not a terrible game. I finished it. It wasn't incredibly hard to finish, and it was way shorter than I would like. But it's way better than Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I still haven't played because I'll just wait for a heavily discounted sale on that one, because no need to really reinforce their ability to make terrible games. All right, moving on to Battlefield 6, and they are disabling the homing missiles from the infantry fighting vehicles, the Bradleys, those type of things in Battlefield 6 have been temporarily disabled. The decision was made following constant complaints from players about difficulty in avoiding these missiles after being fired. The official Battlefield 6 Twitter account announced the update on October 6th, stating they are addressing inconsistencies with the vehicle countermeasures. The change is expected to be live immediately, with further adjustments planned for the following week. The IFV is designed to transport soldiers and is equipped with a lock-on rocket for both offensive and defensive use. Players have noted that the lock-on feature is too quick, has a large radius of effectiveness, and allows for rapid firing with a short cooldown. Flares are the primary defense for pilots against these missiles, but they are not always effective. Yes, this is actually the common complaint from people that fly jets and fly helicopters, is that these missiles are broken. They basically, you flare and they still will go through your flares. You try to go around mountains and stuff if you can find some, because most of the maps don't have any, and you still get shot down. So the issue is that the IFV is actually the real mobile AA, and the mobile AA that is supposed to be the real threat is not a real threat. It's still a threat, but it's not as big of a threat. It's actually the worst vehicle in the game, which is funny because the mobile AA should be the biggest threat for any air vehicle, and it's not. It's RPGs, it's Stingers, and it's IFV, and maybe the tanks too, because you can do the I guess aimable missile as well, which I don't think they should have as tank. I think tank they should do another one, but I digress. This is actually a good thing. I call them Mr. Missiles, but the MR missiles are an issue. Now, for those that hate flying and hate the air vehicles, you have plenty of ways of dealing with these. You have the mobile AA if you can upgrade it and make it at least worthwhile. You also have stationary AA turrets throughout the map, and usually there's at least one in every map. You also have very little cover for these air vehicles. Look at the Blackwell Fields map. That one is so terrible in flying. Like, you're out of bounds 9 times out of 10, and they can still lock on you. You're at your base, and they still can lock on you. It's actually the worst map they probably ever made. It's a joke. I was going to be nicer, but they decided to ban me for 7 days, so I'm not going to be too nice to them right now. It's a joke. They need to learn actually how to make good maps, and they're not. The funny part is that the Battle Royale map is the best, biggest map. I don't know how they figured out how to make a really good Battle Royale map, and they screw up the rest of the maps. The only good map in Conquest is Firestorm, and that's not even a new map. That's a map from Battlefield 3, which goes to show you they hemorrhage too much talent that they don't know how to make maps right now. Blackwell is not a good map. It needs a heavy adjustment in where the points are, because it's basically in the middle, which is basically every new multiplayer match. There's the middle 2 or 3 points, and those are the ones that are mainly attacked on, and then the rest of the points, you back cap or you go around and you cap it, but you don't really fight on that. Like, Firestorm kind of sort of has it, but they have several different routes to go, but you have E and D, and then you have that hill, which I think that hill needs to be not out of bounds as much, and they need to readjust that one as well, because then snipers just camp there, and it's very annoying to try to deal with. But you have the E and D, so you have it for the Russian side, and it's very flat and very long sight lines, and then you have D with some buildings and stuff. Then you have C, B, and A, and those are a little bit more closer together, and they're still far enough apart where you still have to run to it. And there's still some areas, but there's rocks, there's buildings, there's ways for cover. And so it's a good balance, and it allows for jets and helicopters to basically get away from lock-ons, like through buildings and stuff. So it's a good balance. Now, the rest of the maps, not so good. Liberation Peak is probably one of the better maps. And I'm saying that as better meaning it's still not good, because of the 3-lane approach from Call of Duty. You can see that is like the prevalent map design thing for them. They need to get away from the 3-lane approach of Call of Duty, because this is Battlefield. You flank, you outmaneuver. That's how you do it. You can't outmaneuver and flank when you know the routes. It's really easy. As I said, Liberation Peak is the quote-unquote better map, but it doesn't mean it's a great map. It just means that it's better because, at least for helicopters, you can go down that ravine and hopefully not get shot down by RPGs. But there are a lot of issues, and one of the issues is map design. And it's very prevalent throughout most of the maps. And map design is a huge issue. Now, I'm hoping that they fix this with newer maps, or just remake older maps too. Probably a mixture of both, to kind of give a balance and really figure out like what made good maps. Like, heck, I would love to see Caspian Border again, because that's still a really good map. I know some of you like Metro. I hate Metro for what it is. Just a cluster. But you all love it because you get a lot of XP from it. I don't like Locker because it's the same thing. Now, Metro in Battlefield 5 was better than the original Metro in Battlefield 3. That was the biggest cluster of all. But some of the older maps are good because of the ways you can navigate the map. You can't do that as much in these newer ones. There are some you can do better than others. Liberation you can't really do as well. There is some maneuvering you can do way back on the left or right side, depending on which way you're coming from. But by point D and point B, there is more room for you to maneuver around, but you really have to go around to do that. And you can get picked off by snipers pretty quickly. C is the biggest cluster because it's way too enclosed and it's annoying to try to capture, or actually it's more annoying to recapture than capture the first time, because you usually capture the first time, but the other team goes and captures everything else. So I have a lot of issues with it. I'm glad that they've disabled this and they're looking to adjust this. I do think basically SOFLAMs need to be readjusted. I don't think you should be able to lock on once and it stays locked on for a while. I do think it needs to be a constant lock on, because that makes it a lot harder for you to kill the jets and specifically the helicopters, because the helicopters are way more sitting ducks than the jets. Jets you can speed out with your afterburners. Helicopters, you don't really have that. Maybe it's going to be better with the mini birds or the little birds whenever they come out. I don't know when they're going to come out, but this is a good step in the right direction. They do need to fix it. They do need to address a lot of things, but this is one of them they definitely need to address. The other address is going to be out of bounds markers for helicopters and for jets. It needs to be bigger. It needs to allow for more space to get away from all the designations, all the lock-on missiles, all that fire needs to be way farther away for them to maneuver around. But anyways, moving on to Arc Raiders. Now, Arc Raiders was released last week to, well, pretty good fanfare. It's one of the highest rated multiplayer shooters on OpenCritic with a score of 93 from 21 reviews, which is pretty good. It has surpassed other notable games like Counter-Strike and Overwatch in ratings. In the all-time ranking, Arc Raiders is the highest rated multiplayer shooter with no similar game having a higher rating. Competing games in the shooter category include Half-Life Alyx, Vampire Survivors, Ode to Castlevania, and The Last of Us Remastered. The game features maps populated with enemy robots. If you don't know, it's basically enemy robots, and you have other arcs, and you're trying to get materials and complete missions and extract. And if you don't extract, you lose everything. So I usually just go on more of a quote-unquote scav run. That's more of a Tarkov terminology, but that type of a thing. So it's good. Now, Arc Raiders has achieved over 350,000 players. The game developers are former Battlefield devs, which is ironic. The previous game in the finals was also well received. Still a great game. The finals is a free-to-play game, and Arc Raiders is not. It's a premium game that you have to pay for, but it's actually not that expensive. And they said that they have a 10-year plan for this, which is amazing. Also, it's using Unreal Engine 5, and they seem to do a pretty good job of, well, optimizing it. I hate to say it, but the two most optimized games right now that I've seen is Arc Raiders and Battlefield 6. I gotta give credit for DICE on that one. I may be mad at them for what they've done to me, but I gotta give them credit for the optimization of it, because for the most part, it is really well optimized. I have not run into too many bugs. I've run into some. With the Battle Royale, it was just a black screen and I couldn't see anything, so I had to get out of it. I also lost server connection a couple times, which was weird. And then during the actual multiplayer, I'll go black screen, then back to it again, which is weird. But there are some issues, but a lot of it is not that game breaking. There are exploits, which are annoying, but that's another issue. But for Arc Raiders, yeah, I mean, they had server issues when it hit the 300,000 mark, but they seem to have fixed that issue. And all in all, it's a great game. I have not run into any bugs, really. I run into interesting people through there, and you can talk to them if you want to or don't want to, whatever. People can shoot you if they think you have stuff they want, and you could be nice and not shoot people if you want as well. I've killed a few. I don't really try to kill. I try to avoid, but sometimes you can't really avoid those people. So it's a good game. You could play with people, one person, you could do duo teams, but I heard that's actually really a pain in the butt because people will actually target you. So doing it solo might be the best play for now, but we'll see once everybody starts to do end game content and then they start to really, really annoy you. All right, moving on to Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it's described as one of the most controversial entries in the Assassin's Creed series. The game received significant backlash, which affected Ubisoft and the game's development. Well, yeah, because you made like a samurai black and you tried to play it off as this historical thing that it wasn't. And I think you made him, or at least one of the characters, gay, maybe trans or what, I don't really know, but you made weird decisions that you shouldn't have made. But it's funny because Ubisoft addressed the controversy during a meeting at video game industry insiders at Paris Game Week. And the video was shown that recapped the game's evolution, the backlash it faced. The video concluded that with Ubisoft's decision to shift its focus from the controversy to emphasizing the game was meant to be a game, not a message. Yeah, but you made the message front and center. You can't say, well, it was just a game, and then your message is, look how woke we are. And then people are like, yeah, I really don't like this. You probably should have just made like the samurais like Japanese. That probably wouldn't have been a good idea. Everybody's like, but there was one black one. And it's like, well, no, not really. I mean, there was a black guy in Japan, but he wasn't a samurai. So you're now like making up history at the same time. And it just did not seem like a good game. And I know they've updated it and made the parkour system better, but I was like, I'm good. I don't need to buy this game. I got Mirage. I can replay Origins. I can replay Odyssey. I can replay Valhalla. Valhalla was just a very long game. It became a little too long of a game where it's like, oh, I got to do this again. But my point is that if you just made the game about samurai specifically and you made it about Japanese people instead of like highlighting the one black person in Japan during that time, probably would have been a very successful game. But no, you had to do it. Oh, look at us. We found this one anomaly in Japan at the time, and we're going to highlight him, and we're going to fudge history just a little bit with a controversial historian that may or may not have actually been accurate about it. But we're going to make it controversial because, well, reasons. And everybody's like, we don't want that. You might want to just redo the game, maybe take him out and put a Japanese character instead. They're like, no, we're good. This game will sell well. And then when it released, they couldn't even give you the sales numbers. They were like, 3 million people played this game. I'm like, that is what? Yeah, great, because you have your own subscription service. It's on Xbox Game Pass. So I don't know how many of those were sales and how many were those just part of the subscription. And to this day, we still don't know the numbers. We kind of know now that it didn't sell as well as it should have, as we were all thinking it wouldn't. But Ubisoft finally was like, yeah, it didn't do as well as we said it did, but we didn't really want to tell you at the time because we wanted to make sure that the game sold well, which it didn't because it had too much controversy. So that's the thing. The message, you will always create a message within a game. There's no way around it. You are delivering morals. You are delivering what is right and wrong in a game. Even if you portray as a bad person, you're tooling around with it. You're kind of skirting that line, but every game has a message. You can't get around it. And so Ubisoft, you focus on the wrong message and you've lost the plot. And now the gamers are like, we don't like this. Please fix it. And you're like, no, we're good. And everybody's like, yeah, this isn't going to do very well. And it didn't. Anyways, moving on to the Outer Worlds 2. It also did come out the same week of Arc Raiders. And boy, did it not do very well, unfortunately. So it did come out The game is described as providing a sense of escapism, allowing players to explore a new world and shape their own stories. The game is set on a colony called Arcadia, which features various outpost settlements and alien landscapes. The Outer Worlds 2 seems to feel alive with elements like overheard conversations and missions contributing to immersive experiences. The game encourages players to explore and take their time rather than rush through objectives. But here's the thing. At the time of this recording, The Outer Worlds 2 has over 7,000 people playing this game on Steam, SteamDB. The original one, that came out I think in 2019, has over 1,000 people playing. It's a much older game, and it's roughly within margin. I mean, 6,000 difference in the players playing the game. That's not a good. I know this is going to be more off-peak hours, but still, I mean, if you look at like Battlefield, it has thousands of players playing. If you look at Arc Raiders, it has thousands of players playing. And those two are still new games. Arc Raider and Outer Worlds 2 came out roughly the same time. And Outer Worlds 2 is way, way behind Arc Raiders. Now, there's a lot of controversy with Obsidian now because the art director hates white people for some odd reason, and that has carried over a little bit too much. Also, Avowed wasn't that great, so that was another issue with it. And so there are a lot of issues within the developer that needs to be addressed. And I think Outer Worlds, the original, was actually a pretty good game. The problem is that too many controversies for a developer, and most people just will ignore your game. It's why being in the middle is probably the best spot for businesses in general. You don't want to be too far on the right, and you don't want to be too far on the left. You just want to be in that middle spot where you're like, you know what? I don't really care about either way. We're just trying to make a business. Just like Michael Jordan, conservatives buy shoes too. And then you could say liberals buy shoes too. Everybody buys shoes. Everybody buys commodities. Everybody buys forms of entertainment. If you heavily go to one direction or the other, you will alienate the other one. Unless you're in an opinion. Like opinion stuff, fine. You usually tailor to one side or the other. You kind of are in the middle a lot of times. But that's the issue right now, is that we're picking sides because we're so divided it's mainly because our lack of community now. Because online has become our community centers, and those community centers are not healthy at all. But moving on to my main thing about AI slop and chat moderation is ruining gaming. And I firmly believe that. Amazon, as we all know, laid off 14,000 people. They are not making games anymore. New World is basically done for unless Palworld developer can buy it out, which I really hope they do. And the Lord of the Rings MMO is gone. You still have the old Lord of the Rings MMO that's been going, I think, for 10 years, something like that. It's been going for a while. But no, instead they're going to be focusing on, was it Luma? Their cloud-based one that's now part of the Prime subscription, which was a smart move because no one was buying that. Even when it first launched, I'm like, yeah, I don't need that. But the other issue is they're going to be focusing on AI games, or as I call it, AI slop. Because it's slop, because you shouldn't allow AI to just create your game. I'm a firm believer that AI is a great tool, as long as you keep it a tool. The problem is that it looks like AI and Amazon, specifically Amazon, is going to be heavily using AI to just create games. I think a Snoop Dogg game, which if you have the Fire Cube or the Fire Stick and you use Amazon to watch stuff, they are heavily promoting it, and I'm like, this game looks awful. No hate to Snoop. He's doing what he's doing. He is in every partnership he can imagine. But man, does that game look awful. Like really, really bad. And so when you don't use it as a tool and you use it for a means to an end, you're going to get slop. If you use it for a tool, like I've said before previously, for like using it to Q&A test before you have humans Q&A tested, looking for it to help you make better designs on maps and making sure it runs smoothly and well. if you help it with like checking over the code and making sure it's well optimized for your game, those are great ways of using AI. But to use it for a creative asset, no. Because a lot of people will figure it out and be like, this is slop, and then you ruin your reputation. Amazon's already ruined its reputation, at least in the gaming area. They tried to quote unquote compete with Steam, and everybody's like, what? Because that was never happening. I mean, they were ambitious, I give them that, but I was like, yeah, that's not happening at all. So your ambition got the best of you, unfortunately. But here's the thing. AI is great for specific tasks. AI is not great for other specific tasks. Use the tool wisely. I know it is such a temptation to use it for everything, but don't do it. It will ruin you, and people will not trust you. We're already questioning just about every video now if it's AI or not, because it's getting really good to not tell if it's real or not, but a lot of times you can still tell. Use it as a tool, not for a means to an end. But now let's get to chat moderation, because Blizzard is doing it, DICE is doing it. Apparently I got banned for 7 days for a minor offense, but EA and DICE, you should stick to combating cheaters, not moderating chats. If you're going to make a competitive game, the whole point of a competitive game from a guy's perspective is that we razz and insulting each other. A, because it's competitive and we're getting frustrated that we're losing. B, because that's what guys do. And the fact is that you're like, nope, guys can't be guys, because heaven forbid that's a terrible thing for society to have, or boys can be boys or guys can be guys. Nope, can't have that. That's terrible. That's toxic for whatever, because feminism is not toxic at all. No, we can't do that, because words are harm. Like what? Look at, if you keep doing this, nobody's going to talk. In a competitive game, BR games, conquest games, communication is key. But if you don't allow it, then nobody's going to talk, because no one wants to get banned, because it's a very annoying thing to get banned for. Second of all, I shouldn't be banned for playing Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, Battlefield 4. If I got banned on one of them, I shouldn't be banned on all of them. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. That is, once the government opens again, I'm going to the FTC. I'm filing a complaint on you guys. Second of all, you should only care if it's an actual threat to violence. Like, I'm going to come over your house and kill you should never be okay. Calling someone a faggot or retard, really? It's a word. It's not going to cause harm. I don't care about your emotional harm. That's, if you're an adult, deal with it. If you're not an adult, well, still deal with it, but figure out how to be an adult. Look, if you're going to make adult games, you're going to have to deal with adults being adults. If you can't do that, then stick to Sims 4. But don't tell me that I can't say things that aren't even remotely harmful and remotely even further from the truth of being actually harmful in a way of violence. It is not violent. I'm going to now start to find creative ways of saying the word without saying the word. I think we're going to start using frack now from Battlestar Galactica. Call it, instead of faggot, call it frackit. Frakkit. Yeah. I'll get around it somehow. And if you ban me, I'll be like, I didn't use the word, I used something else. Also, grow some thick skin. Like, seriously. I don't understand why it's harmful. Harm, actually, you have to show the harm. You can't just be like, it's harmful. Okay, like legally, you have to show harm. I know, private business, whatever. Well, actually, eventually private business, technically it's a publicly traded company, but it still applies, because Overwatch was very banhammer happy and people stopped actually communicating on Overwatch 2. It will eventually happen with this game. I mean, this game, not a lot of people talk anyways, but it's going to be more incentive to never say anything. Why? Because what's the point? I could somehow upset somebody that they ban or they report me, and then I get banned for 7 days for a word, which really is a ridiculous amount of time for a word. So the end result, apparently for gaming, is going to be ruined by creating AI games with AI and then just basically using AI to chat moderate because, well, why not? Let's keep it friendly, I guess. You can still be friends and still say terrible things to each other. All people do it to each other. If you're best friends and you are extremely sarcastic with each other, you say the most crazy crap and it's still fine. But no, we have to make sure that we mom our chats now. Don't say that. That's hurtful. No. I mean, don't make a competitive game if you don't want colorful language to be said. Now, do I agree that everything should be said? No, but we're adults. It's words. It's not going to harm you. You go back and forth. You get frustrated. You say some salty language. You go back and forth. That's how these types of games are made, are done. But you just can't keep on being the same way and being like, no, you're not allowed to say that. That's harmful. And then not really show any harm. Harm actually has to have some type of way of showing it. I'm not talking about emotional harm that's fictitious and made up and you can lie about that all you want. I'm talking about actual physical harm, which should be a legal thing. I know, not really legally, but I mean, they use lawyers to make their own terms of services anyways that they don't even follow. So my point is that chat moderation from the developer and the developer making games with AI will ruin a game, will make sure that no one plays it, and will make sure no one talks to each other. Because I don't want to get banned again. Why take the risk? Might as well just be silent and not say anything. That's the best way of doing it, apparently. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy about all this stuff, or you think I'm right on? Let me know in the comments below. But once again, thank you for listening to Digital Coffee. I really do appreciate it. And as always, if you subscribe, you know all the places. And join me next week as I talk about what's going on in the gaming industry. All right, guys, stay safe. Get to saying those salty languages that you love to say, and screw the developers that want to mom you. See you next week. Later.